The atmosphere on set that day was suffocatingly tense. Sam Heughan sat in a corner, his hands clutching the script, his eyes constantly scanning the difficult lines. He knew this was the most important scene of the day, an emotional scene where his character would face his greatest loss. Sam feared that if he looked a little unnatural, the audience would not feel the full depth of his pain. On the other side, Caitriona Balfe was no better. The scene required her to express the intense struggle between love and reason, but in her heart she was always worried. Was she being too dramatic? Would her eyes, her voice, her every little movement convince the audience of her sincerity? The lights were bright, the cameras were pointed straight at her like hundreds of scrutinizing eyes. The moment the cameras rolled, Sam began to get into character, but his heart was pounding. He was afraid that the tension would make him forget every line. Caitriona, though trying to stay calm, still felt her hands shaking as she approached him. Then, in the moment when everything seemed to collapse, their eyes met. It was no longer Sam and Caitriona, but two characters bound by a complicated love. They were no longer acting for anyone, but truly living in the moment. The director watched in silence. Every line spoken, every breath caught, every tear rolling down, it was all so real that the crew behind them fell silent. When the scene ended, the entire studio exploded in thunderous applause. Sam breathed a sigh of relief, turned to Caitriona, and gave a small smile. "I think we did it," he whispered. Caitriona responded with sparkling eyes, her worries melting away. "It wasn't you or me," she said, "it was us, together." At that moment, both of them understood that no matter how much pressure and worries there were on set, as long as they stood together, shared and supported each other, everything could be overcome. And it was that connection that created an invisible strength, turning each scene into a moment that touched the audience's hearts. After the successful scene, the whole studio was still buzzing with praise. But behind the halo, Sam and Caitriona still knew that the challenge was long. The tight filming schedule, the pressure from the audience, the expectations from the director and producer, all weighed heavily on their shoulders every day. One morning, when entering the studio, Sam received a text message from the director. "Today will be the hardest scene. We don't have much time, be mentally prepared." He frowned, feeling nervous again. He had stayed up almost all night last night, rehearsing the dialogue in his head over and over again, but it still felt like it wasn't enough. Caitriona noticed the tension on his face. She gently approached him, placing her hand on Sam's shoulder. "Are you nervous?" "Yeah, this scene is really important. If I don't convey the right emotions, the whole flow of the film will be affected." Caitriona smiled, her eyes gentle. "Then we will do it together. You don't have to carry it alone." The words were simple, but like a small fire warming Sam's heart. When the scene began, the atmosphere in the studio was dead silent. Only the lights were shining straight and the sound of action rang out. Sam had to portray the intense struggle of a man between love and duty. He walked heavily, his eyes were red, his hands were shaking as if he was trying to hold on to something that was about to slip away. Caitriona played the role perfectly. She approached, her eyes filled with love but also with determination. Her voice was choked, filled with both pain and pride. The scene lasted more than 10 minutes, but every passing moment made the whole crew forget to breathe. But when it ended, the director still shook his head. "Not bad, but not enough. I need more. I need to see you forget that this is a movie." Those words were like a heavy blow. Sam and Caitriona were silent, feeling that all their efforts just now were not enough. They left the set, sitting together in the small break room. Sam sighed. "I'm afraid we can't achieve what they want." Caitriona looked at him, determined. "Sam, we can't let fear control us. We've been through a lot before. Believe that as long as we're together, we can do it." She held his hand tightly. In that moment, both of them seemed to find peace in the midst of the storm. The next day, they returned with a different mindset, no longer thinking about the director, the audience, or the pressure. They just looked at each other, letting their emotions guide them. And when the camera started, something magical happened. Sam was no longer acting. He truly lived in the character, letting his emotions flow. The tears fell without forcing, each line seemed to come from his heart. Caitriona was the same. She let the pain spread, making her voice tremble, her eyes filled with tears as if she were truly broken. The director stood behind the camera, eyes wide, not daring to blink. The entire crew seemed caught in a storm of emotions. And when the director shouted, "Cut!" the entire studio fell silent for a few seconds, before the applause erupted. It was more than just a perfect shot, it was a testament to the power of trust and companionship. After the shoot, Sam and Caitriona sat together on the porch, the sunset glowing red in the distance. Sam chuckled. "I don't think I could have made it without you." Caitriona tilted her head slightly, her eyes sparkling. "We're a team, Sam. Always have been." Their laughter echoed, blending into the sunset, like a silent promise that any difficulty on set or in life would be defeated, as long as they were together. And in those moments, the audience out there could not know that, behind the ecstasy on screen, there were worries, struggles, and a strong friendship that helped the two people overcome everything. Writing. She let the pain spread, making every blink, every breath of hers tremble like a real crack in her heart. The camera caught everything, not missing a single detail. When the director shouted, "Cut!" no one dared to breathe heavily, because they had just witnessed something far beyond the concept of acting. Sam and Caitriona slumped down in their chairs, sweat beading on their foreheads, but in their hearts they felt a strange sense of relief. They knew they had reached the threshold of expectation. However, they both understood that it was only a small journey. In the dressing room after filming, Caitriona looked at Sam, her eyes tired but still bright. "Have you ever thought, we have to continue to keep this feeling for the whole season?" Sam was silent for a few seconds, then nodded slightly. "I think it will be a real war. But if you were here, I wouldn't be afraid." Caitriona smiled, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. She knew clearly that there were countless challenges ahead, harsh scenes under harsh weather, pressure from the press out there, and the constant gossip about their relationship. Outside, the sun had completely set, leaving only the studio lights casting long shadows on the floor. Sam unconsciously looked at their shadows, two figures pressed close together. He suddenly realized that no matter how many storms there were, as long as they walked together, they would find their way. The director walked in, a rare smile flashing across his stern face. "You two did very well today. But remember, the road is long, and I need more than that." Sam and Caitriona looked at each other, no longer the anxious look of the early days, but the eyes of two warriors ready to enter the next battle. Before leaving the set, Caitriona whispered, "We overcame the worries today. But you know, I feel like the days ahead will be even tougher." Sam smiled softly, his eyes determined. "Then we will fight together again. Again, and many more times." In the falling night, they walked side by side. The lights behind them gradually turned off, giving way to a vast, vast sky. The road ahead was still unclear, full of challenges, but it was the companionship that turned all the worries into motivation. And the story was not over. Because in every scene, in every moment, Sam and Caitriona had to face new pressures. Pressures that could break anyone. But not them. Not when they still had faith and an unbreakable bond. The last light on the set went out, leaving behind a deep night sky. In that darkness, a new journey has just opened, a journey that only the future will answer. How they will overcome, and how many more times they will need to stand together.